Hey everyone, welcome to Ask Sick Shane Anything. That's right, I am under the weather. My mom was here for the last week. The day after she left, I woke up and I was sick, and I am still sick. This timing could not be worse. This is literally like the most important week of the year for me to be able to work. Because I have to get so much stuff done before I leave for the holidays next Thursday. Also, today is the Game Awards, so I'm going to be locked down with that for like 5 or 6 hours today. So anyway, I'm going to answer less questions in today's show. I think you guys can understand that. Still have some great questions, though. Let's get to them. Okay, first up, we have a query from Gabriel Johansson. I was wondering if you ever play local co-op anymore. It used to be my favorite way to play games, and we selected games based on if they had local co-op or not. We would even play worse games together rather than better games. We would even play worse games together rather than better games alone. Pixel Junk Monsters was one of our favorites. However, it rarely happens anymore, and I didn't even get to play most of It Takes Two. Finding time to play with anyone is harder as you get older. Okay, Gabriel, first of all, thank you for asking your first ever question for Ask Shane Anything. I hope you'll go back to the forums and ask more questions in the future, because this is a really good one, and it would be great if you could keep contributing to the show going forward. Second of all, to your question, I don't think it's just local co-op. I think it's just local gameplay, period. I think what's happened is that Xbox Live, PSN, Nintendo Switch Online, there's very little reason, actually, to go and play games locally with your friends anymore. And part of it is age, but again, it's like it used to be a necessity. If you wanted to play games with other people during the N64, Dreamcast era, you had to go and hang out. There was no network, there was no online play. Now, obviously, Xbox launched Xbox Live, and that changed everything. But it took a lot longer, honestly, for Nintendo and PlayStation to kind of fall in line and have their own robust online environments like they do now. So the problem is that it's just way too easy to just sit down and turn on your console and start playing with somebody else. And it could be your best friend who lives 2 blocks away. It is still easier to walk to your couch, turn your console on, turn your TV on, and start playing with your buddies instead of getting all your stuff together, driving over to your buddy's house. Then you get there, maybe the conditions aren't ideal. There's so many reasons why you could say to yourself, I'm just going to play online. So I don't think the problem is just cooperative play. I think it's multiplayer in general. It's just really hard to rationalize going and playing games with someone in person. I think the movie theaters are struggling with this right now. I think they're struggling to provide a compelling argument to get people off their couches and away from their big TVs and their surround sound systems to go to a theater. And I think the irony of that a little bit is that probably the best movies that you can go watch to see with other people, or at least one of the best, are comedies. And at the same time, comedies are one of the last things that I feel like is worth going to a theater to see. Usually when I go to a theater, I go to see a movie with crazy special effects and great audio and things like that. But there's nothing that really replicates laughing with an entire room of people at a film. It's not the same watching with just like 1 or 2 people in your living room. It's still not enough to convince people to go back. And I doubt we'll see a lot of comedies in theaters probably in perpetuity. So in the films, it's like certain genres there affect whether you want to do it with other people. Same with video games. Now, I guess part of my job in doing the show is to find a solution to this stuff. And unfortunately, I don't know that I can. It Takes Two, which is a great cooperative game, like you mentioned, probably one of the best cooperative games ever, in my opinion. You can play that game online if you want to. You don't have to play it locally. And again, anytime you have that option, I think it's going to convince people to just play online instead of going and hanging out with them physically. And this just is kind of a reflection of our society in general. I saw a comic the other day. One of my dad's old biker buddies on Facebook posted this cartoon, and it showed a restaurant in 1974, and it showed people dancing and talking to each other, and there was a band playing, and people were at the bar talking, people at their tables were like milling around talking to each other. And then if the second panel is 2024, and everybody in the restaurant is like this, looking down at their phones. It's really sad what has happened to our society. It really is. I think a lot of people just aren't interested in hanging out with other people. Now, it's different when you say, okay, I already know this person, it's my buddy, I want to go hang out with them and play games. That's different than just kind of like the social aspect of just meeting other people and conversing with other people and that sort of thing. It just feels like our society's just become more and more isolated as it's become easier and easier to stay home. And I think that's the root of the problem. Again, it's a little different if you're talking about playing with your friends. Now, I think one place where co-op and multiplayer local hasn't died is Nintendo. Nintendo's games tend to trend towards younger audiences, and if you have kids, I think you don't struggle to find people to play with cooperatively. That is the one kind of safe haven for that type of game that still exists. And so, that's different though. It's different playing a kid's game with your kid than playing an adult game with another adult. I totally get that. A lot of times you're humoring the child. You have to help the child play. You're constantly giving them instructions as you play. It is different. I understand that. But at the same time, cooperative play is not completely dead. There is that family setting where it still exists. But as far as adults playing locally with each other, it's kind of over. Okay, next up, we have a question from El Timbo. What do the sifted interest point options mean to you? Okay, El Timbo, I have to admit, I'm not 100% sure what you're asking about here. I don't know if you're asking about the different options, what each icon means, or if you're asking generally, why is that a part of the website? And for some of you sitting there maybe wondering what this question's about, period. Well, on Sifted, as you use the site and leave comments and visit every day, etc., you build experience points and you level up. I think I'm level 56 or something like that, or 58. I think I'm the highest on the website at this point. You level up, and every time you level up, you get an interest point. And then there's a really cool interface that you can go to where you can spend those interest points and kind of build your profile. And the idea behind it, one, was to reward people with a fun little interface that they could use if they're regular users. And I'll just tell you right now, pro tip. If you're trying to figure out how to maximize leveling up on Sifted, the two things that you can do that will help you level up more than anything is, one, visiting every day. That is the best way to build your level. You get tons of points just for visiting every day. And then the other one is leaving comments, just interacting with the website. So show up every day, interact here and there, leave a comment, reply to somebody, something like that, and you'll level up in no time. And then once you level up, you get a point, and then you go to the grid and you can add a point to whatever you want. Now, the idea behind it was one, as I said earlier, to create this fun interface to reward people for using the site. But the other part of it too is that if I meet someone on the site, I want to try to figure out what kind of player they are, or maybe what kind of person they are, but more likely what kind of gamer they are. I can go to their profile and I can look at their grid and how they've assigned their points, and I can figure out what genres they're into. Now, there's a couple icons that people have been confused about in the past. One of them is for MOBA. The other one is an Ethernet port. And you can probably, now that I've told you, you can figure out which one of those icons I'm talking about. And that's for like people who like to play online a lot. But generally, it's just a way for you to tell other people on the site what you're interested in, what kind of games you like. And therefore, maybe you're more likely or less likely to connect with somebody. And maybe, I don't know. I feel like it's a good way to tell people about yourself without writing some paragraph, some corny thing like a lot of social media websites ask you to do. So anyway, this is a gaming website, and so it's kind of gaming centric. But anyway, back to your question. What do the interest point options mean to you? What they mean to me is that I can figure out what kind of a player you are by going and looking at your profile. And if I like what I see there, then maybe I start reading some of your blogs and some of the other stuff that you've been doing. But that's purely it. There's no crazy secret hidden agenda about the interest points or leveling up on Sifted. It's just a fun thing to do that we thought our users would enjoy because, again, leveling up is a part of gaming, and we wanted to incorporate that as much as we could into our community, thus the one-ups on the site instead of likes. So it just kind of follows in that aesthetic, and that's pretty much it. Okay, our last question for this episode comes from Fruit Eater. Matt talks about board games sometimes, but we haven't learned a lot about what you think of them. Do you like board games? And if so, what is your favorite of all time? So I don't think you guys really know the half of it with Matt and board games. He talks about it all the time on the show, and so you understand that he likes them, but I don't think you understand the depth. I mean, it's insane how many board games he has. Like, I think if he started playing them now, like, I don't know if he'd be able to finish them all before, he died or whatever. I hate to bring that up, but I'm just using that as an example. He has so many board games. And the crazy part is he knows how to play pretty much all of them. He'll pull one down. He'll run through it very quickly about how it works and how it plays and other board games that it's very similar to. He is in a completely different league, and I don't think you guys understand it. We've never really shown you guys like his whole board game thing at his house. But he is he's probably in the top 1 percentile of board game players. And even the definition of board game to you and Matt is probably different than it is for me. Like, when I think about board games, I think about like Monopoly and stuff like that. I don't think about like tabletop RPG board games as much. And just to be honest with you, I don't have any. I don't have a single board game like that. I have no tabletop RPGs, none of that. No board games based on video games. And honestly, the big thing with that is I just don't have the time. I don't have time to do anything. Literally every minute of my day is mapped out from 7 a.m. until 8 or 9 p.m. at night. I work. And it's everything I can do to keep this thing afloat, to make sure the website is constantly getting curated content to it, to make sure that there's original content for our patrons. It can be overwhelming at times. And right now I'm sick. And it makes it really hard. Just not physically, but like mentally. Because you get to a point where you're like, man, I never have sick days. I never have vacation days. And I just got to plow on through. I got to work. I'm sick right now. Normally, if I had a regular job, I would have taken today off. And I would have chilled so I could get better. I don't have that option. So a lot of it ties into just the fact that I just don't have time. I would love to go over to Matt's house and learn how to play a new board game one night a week or something like that. I would love to come to your house and play board games with you. I just don't have the time. Like, the work is from 7 to 9 p.m. and then I have to play games. And in honesty, like, I'd rather play games than play a board game. That's why I'm in video games and I'm not running a board game website. That's what I love to do. It's my favorite entertainment medium of all. And so it's just a time issue for me why I'm not playing all the modern board games and I don't play any of these games that are based upon video games that I like. I have to spend all my time actually playing the video games instead of the board games based on the video games. Now, I respect it. Like, it's pretty amazing. Like, some of the games that Matt has blow my mind. Like, if I were a kid or whatever and I had a bunch of time, I don't know how you can ever be bored in 2024. There's just so many things to do, so many entertainment options, and board games is just another one of them. So I respect it, and like the stuff that they're doing is really cool, and I love all the figurines. Like, it takes me back to the days when I played D&D as a kid. Like, I got into it and I loved it until we got a little older, and then we started playing sports. I think it's always a product of time or a lack thereof. Back when I was younger, I had a bunch of free time. And we would play D&D all day long or all weekend long. We'd stay at my buddy's house, like 2 or 3 of us, and just play the whole weekend long. But then you start getting into life. I started playing sports, and that took up a lot of my time. And suddenly that time that we spent playing D&D was spent at football practice or basketball practice or going to games. And where I lived playing sports, like, our games were like, we'd have to travel like an hour and a half each way for our games because the territory was so spread out between towns. So that is kind of organically just went away. So I guess if I would say what my favorite board game is, because I'm not even really a big fan of stuff like Monopoly and things like that anyway. My favorite board game, I guess if it counts as a board game, probably is Dungeons & Dragons. Like, I would probably, if I had time, I would go back and probably spend some more time playing Dungeons & Dragons. It's kind of the industry standard. Some of the more niche stuff, like, again, I respect it. It's awesome to see this scene thriving and all that stuff, but I just don't ever foresee myself having time to play it, except for, like, when I'm eventually in a nursing home or something like that. Okay, thanks for watching Ask Shane Anything, and thanks to all of you guys who pledge at $7 or more per month at patreon.com/sifted. Again, this show only happens because you guys are doing that. If that number starts to fall, we'll reevaluate, but I do love doing this show. I love interacting with you guys, and I feel like this is a great chance for us to connect. So go to sifted.net, ask us some questions. Again, I have to produce, hopefully I'm feeling better soon, but I have to produce like 3 or 4 episodes of this over the next like 5 days to like put those in the bank to run while I'm gone for the holidays. We need more questions. Like, we got some, but we need more. So go to the header, click the link, go to our forums, ask me some questions. It was good to see a new person get off the sideline this week and ask a new question. We need more of you people to do that. We can't keep counting on the same like 10 people to keep asking all the questions for Ask Shane Anything. And again, you can ask me about anything. I think you can see from this episode, it really kind of casts a wide net. So anyway, thanks for that. If you want to help us and maybe you don't want to get involved in a subscription service, go to donate.sifted.net. A lot of people right now are just donating money so we can get beers over the holidays or whatever. We'd really appreciate that. Again, go to donate.sifted.net. You can punch in any amount there. You can use your credit card or your PayPal account in over 100 different countries. And you can just give us whatever you want. And I promise you, I will buy at least 1 beer with that money that you send us. So anyway, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.